I remember it was around February. I just said, you know what, I'm done. The suicidal thoughts, it became too intense, and I felt this was the only way out. I had failed everyone, I had failed at everything, at anything that I could do. And I just planned it, and I said, this is the time I'm going to attempt it, and it's going to work. And I knew even the pesticide, I was going to drink and die. I knew I would die. I wanted to die fast, so it was by poison. I waited for my wife to go to school, and I sold our TV for around 6,000. I went to the bar. Yeah, it was on a Monday. I drank myself silly. I bought alcohol for everyone, and then I went and bought the pesticide from an agrovet, and then I went to another bar where now I started drinking high-end alcohol, because I didn't want to die and go to heaven while smelling of keg. You know, I was very sure I was going to heaven even at that time. So after drinking 2 bottles, and I had my cargo here, my paper bag of poison, I went to the toilet. I tested the toilet. I made sure the door had a lock, and then I said, what am I waiting for? The earlier the better, so that I can get maybe when the guys in heaven are not tired and they can admit me. I went to the toilet. I opened the pesticide. Up to now, I still remember that acrid, sharp smell. That smell from that bottle. Up to now, if I pass by somewhere, especially in the village where that chemical has been used, that pesticide has been used, it triggers those memories. But I gulped it down, and I won't lie to you, I don't remember anything else that happened in that toilet. But I found myself at Jamii Hospital, Karatina, and I didn't know it was Jamii. Of course, I came to know later. I couldn't even see, and I just knew it was a hospital because I had my mom, and then my wife, and then maybe doctors. The worst part of it was they were fixing something in my nose, pipes, and pushing them. And because I was fighting, some people were holding me down, and I was fighting. My eyesight was blurred, and for almost 2 weeks I couldn't see. Even the TV, I couldn't see what was on the TV, even after settling down. And it was so painful. They were pumping. I came to know later that they were pumping chemicals out of my stomach. I've never asked my mom how she got to Karatina from the village. I have never even talked about it, about the suicide, the attempted suicide. Of course, in African societies, we don't talk about this. Actually, even my sister, one of my sisters, even got shocked that I ever attempted suicide. She didn't even know. No one told her. That is how secretive, or that is how stigma works, because no one wants to talk about such kind of a thing. But to me, it happened, and it happened for a reason, and for reasons I know best. And after that, the stigma got worse. Now I was the teacher who drinks, the teacher who used to work at Safaricom and was sacked, and the teacher who attempted suicide, and the teacher whose wife is heavily pregnant. You know, all those things, they were being said behind my back. Although there's even a guy who confronted me and asked me whether I'm mad. So in the hospital, I can't say I got any form of psychotherapy, support, or counseling, but I was diagnosed with the mental psychosis caused by alcohol addiction. So I started getting some medication from a psychiatrist, but with time I stopped because I didn't feel like it was helping, and I went back to drinking. Now with the stigma, my firstborn came, a boy, a wonderful boy, but I was drinking so much that I didn't even enjoy that moment of his early childhood. He was sickly at the beginning, but I didn't even provide the support that was required. That made it even worse for me. I was stealing from the mother. I was stealing things from the house and selling them. I stopped going to work, and that's how I was interdicted the first time from my teaching job. And when I was interdicted, that means you don't go to work, you don't get paid. So I went back to the writing thing at the cyber cafe. But any money I would make, even 100 shillings, would be to drink. And of course, my wife had to live with the child for her own good and for her own mental wellness. And I was left alone, and I ended up in the slums in Karatina, somewhere called Mudhua, and it was bad. It was so bad that at times I would be sleeping with people I don't even know. From a good job in one of the best corporates to sleeping with people you don't even know somewhere in Karatina. Frankly, I wouldn't wish alcohol addiction on my worst enemy. Not on anyone. Not anyone I know, anyone I don't know. Because by the time I was sleeping with guys I don't know, they could even have harmed me. They were also lost, I know, but they were there because of that addiction. Looking back, it's like God used to save me from so many situations, but I didn't know. Now, after that first interdiction, I didn't have a job, I didn't have a family. I couldn't go back home to my parents' place. And I didn't want to talk to my brothers or my sisters. I had lied to them, I had conned them. I became such a con that I could get money out of anyone at any time. I would go around in town, Karatina, lying that my mother is sick, my brother is sick, or even my father is sick. You know, those ugly stories. You just make up stories to get a coin to drink. I started selling stuff, my shoes. I remember I once sold my shoes in a bar called Kiremara, just to get 180 shillings for alcohol. And I was given these old shoes, Sadaks. A high school teacher. I got back to work in 2015 after going for a disciplinary hearing at TSC. I was posted to another school in Nyeri and in Narumoro, a day school, a small school. But I remember there was a big strike, and after 2-3 months, when the strike came, we were being forced, because for us young teachers, we were not in any of the teachers unions, and we were being forced to work. We were being told you are not. The other teachers were telling us not to work, and at one time I had an argument with the principal, and then we all went back to work, and again my drinking was so bad. The community was complaining, so again I stopped going to work. I even wrote a resignation letter to the deputy. And I was so high when writing it. I didn't even know what I was doing. Of course, it was null and void because it was not even addressed to the TSA. But from that day, I never went back to school. And I went to Narumoro town. My house had been locked already. I didn't have anywhere to sleep. I I started living with my brother who had his own house and his own family somewhere near Narumoro. And that was another 1 year of hell, because I would drink in Narumoro after writing, getting some money. Sometimes I would even get 1,500 a day from the writing website content writing. But all of it would end up in drinking. Many other times I would sleep in lodgings. When I didn't have money for lodgings, I would sleep with the watchman to the same lodging until I got money the next day to get a bed in the lodging. I remember one time he used to give me a carton to sleep under the stairs. Many other times I would sleep in Kebaki's shamba. Those who know Narumoro, there is a big shamba, an open shamba. That is where I would sleep, in the open. Other times I would sleep in the garage because I didn't have money to go to my brother's house, or if we had fought with my brother and I didn't want to go and face him and his wife. It was torture. I stayed in Narumoro for some months, was it for a year or so? And then I said, you know what, I'm going back to Nairobi. And that's how in 2016 I came back to Nairobi. I came to my sister's place in Ruai. But after staying, she was very welcoming. Catherine has always been welcoming. But when I stayed with her for a few months, she told me, no. You have to find your own place. And I told her I understand, because I would drink, come home drunk at night and 3 a.m. shouting. And when she told me I have to get my own place, I thought, that's even a good idea. But I didn't even have money. I didn't tell her I didn't have money to rent my own place. So I went to a place called a low income estate called Choka, because I had seen a cyber cafe somewhere. I talked to the guy, and then the guy allowed me to use the computers. I talked to the guy who used to give me jobs. I told him I needed to rent a small house, and I think he gave me 1,500. Then I came to my sister's place. I went to my sister's place, and she gave me some blankets to start life and like a small mattress. And those things, I lost them in the matatu because I got drunk with the 1,500 I had been given by the employer. So it was always a mess. So because now I didn't have money, I only had, I think, 250. I started sleeping in another lodging. And it's these lodgings where they are called short-time lodgings. So you are sleeping and people are doing their own things in the other rooms, and it was a mess. Choka marks one of my worst moments in my drinking life. In the 17 years of my drinking, that 1 year I stayed in Choka, 2016-2017, I can say was the worst. Because I was now drinking again to die. I was vomiting blood, I was thin, I was drinking with within one, I was borrowing money, I had broken bridges with the family. No one even knew in my family where I used to stay. So I would drink, and I would just make fun in the bar to get alcohol. I would even perform masses because I was an altar boy. So I would make fun, in the bar, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, like if I was a priest, and I would talk in English just to get somebody to buy me alcohol. I remember in 2016 December, other people are going home for Christmas. There I was. I didn't even have a home to go to because I didn't want to go, and I didn't even have fare. Maybe my parents didn't have a problem. Maybe even my sister didn't have a problem. But the shame of the things I had said, or maybe the insults I had, uttered, I didn't want to interact with them. 2017 came, and I remember one day, seated in a bar in the morning, shaking. One lady of the night told me, in total disregard of who I was or whether she knew me, she told me, wewe sasa nasikianga wewe ni graduate na uko hapa unakunywa, na nasikia kwako ni basin tu iko wewe unajifanya kizungu mingi hapa. And that lady insulted me over and over for I think 5 minutes. By the time she was done, I was crying. This is a prostitute I didn't even know, and she was insulting me because there was another lady with a bar where anytime I made money, I would go to that bar and buy them alcohol. So it's like I was being kept by that lady. So this one was insulting me, telling me how stupid I was. And funny enough, that was my eye opener. I asked myself, what was I doing in Choka? What was I doing with my life? I used to talk about my son. Oh, my son. I would cry about my son. Where did my son go? And I thought maybe that thought of dying started diminishing. I thought maybe I can have a life away from alcohol. And I remember a month later, because that was January, a month later in February, that's when my turnaround came. I had drank for almost 4 days, then stayed in the house for 3 days. And I used to do that a lot. I would lock myself after binge drinking for even a week without eating. I would just be even taking water from the tap. And I would have gastritis, a lot of pain. So that day, that evening, after such an episode of binge drinking and then going starving myself and locking myself, I cried to God and I said, Lord, I want to turn around. But first of all, I was so hungry. So I went to my neighbor, begged for food. I was given some food. Then I went to a community center around. It was run by a Catholic church. And I had I used to hear they have social workers or something like that. So I walked in, but I wanted to ask for food first. But then I found some ladies seated. They wanted to talk to those people. So I also thought I can speak. And when I sat down, it was a seminarian or these church people, and I told him I wanted food first. But he told me, before we talk about food, what else can I help you with? And I shared all the story I have shared with you. And for the first time, I found somebody who was listening, not interjecting and telling me, oh, that was bad. That's very bad. That guy listened and listened and listened. And I think we talked for 2 hours. And just by listening, something turned around in me. What had started the previous month, I felt, you know what? Maybe I can do this once and for all. Maybe I don't want to die. And when he gave me that 50 shillings to go and eat food and told me not to drink, I didn't drink. I went to the hotel. I bought some food, beans, maharagwe, beans, and I think chapo. And I was looking at the food and I was like, I had 50 bob and I didn't drink keg. Instead, I have bought food. And you know, for anyone else in the hotel, it was a small hotel. This was normal. But for me, I had the option of buying alcohol and I bought food. That was like a win. And the next day I went back to the guy and we talked. And he started telling me about Alcoholic Anonymous, AA, where people meet, people who drink. And that's how I started going to Holy Family Basilica. I never even went for therapy. But for me, it was 17 years in the coming. It was something that I had suffered, maybe that I had wanted. I had wanted to stop drinking maybe from the first few years. So I can only say maybe I enjoyed drinking even maybe for a few months, the first few months. For me, from that moment, from the first few months, it's something I wanted to stop because it would make me sick, it would make me mess, it would break my relationships. February 2017, February 8th. I always say it was the best day of my life. Of course, other than the day I met my spouse. It was a day I live to remember. It is the day that I'm seated here talking to you about things that happened, painful things that happened in the past. It is a day I celebrate more than my birthday. Because it is the day I got a gift that I can share with millions more people outside here. And that, guys, is the gift that I share with every story that I tell you. Thank you.